New details into the plane crash that killed renowned religious leader Myles Munroe and 8 other passengers. Did Dr. Myles Munroe know he was going to die? The question raised during the Global Leadership Conference. And residents on Grand Bahama outraged over a call by a Florida state representative for the Bahamas to be boycotted. Those details straight ahead in the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. This is the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening, all. I'm Shashina Roll. As always, it is so great to have you with us. Topping news, a new development into that plane crash that killed renowned religious leader Dr. Myles Munroe and 8 others on Sunday. Today, investigators at the site located a crucial piece of equipment that they hope will help to unravel what led to the tragic crash. Natalie Martinborough has our top story.
The Civil Aviation Department has confirmed that investigators have located the cockpit voice recorder and the digital electric engine monitors from the site where the Learjet went down on Sunday afternoon, killing 9 persons on board. The Civil Aviation Department anticipates that these critical pieces of equipment will assist investigators in determining the cause of the crash. The investigative team is comprised of 4 officers from the Department of Civil Aviation Aircraft Accident Investigation and Prevention Unit, who began the preliminary work at the crash site at the Grand Bahama Shipyard on Monday, along with 3 officials from the aircraft manufacturers, a representative from the Federal Aviation Administration, and 1 official from the National Transportation Safety Board. While on Grand Bahama on Monday, the nation's leader told reporters that he visited the crash site and the government needs to ensure that the investigation into the accident moves quickly so as to implement changes if necessary.
We wanted to go to the site to get a sense of what could have gone wrong. Because at the level of the government, the minister has the responsibility of overseeing any investigation that takes place, and most certainly ensuring that whatever we do is compatible with all of the international civil aviation standards. And so that investigation is in progress. For us, it's really one that we know that as leaders of our country, we mourn, we deeply regret, but we must find the answers. We must ensure that wherever the answers takes us, that if it has policy implications, we are able to effect whatever changes we have to.
We now know the name of the 9th person who was killed in that crash. He is 38-year-old Diego Santiago of New York. Reports say he was a prophet who traveled around the world preaching the word of God with Dr. Myles Munroe. The other victims on the flight were BFM's founder and CEO, Dr. Myles Munroe, his wife Ruth Ann, his brother-in-law and Senior Vice President, Dr. Richard Pinder, youth pastors LaVard Parks, his wife Riddell, and their son Johannan, pilots Captain Stanley Thurston and Frank Han Cooper. The group was traveling to Grand Bahama to participate in the Global Leadership Forum at the Grand Luke High-End Resort. Natalie Martinborough, ZNS Network News.
Well, as many the world over grapple to come to grips with the shocking death of Dr. Myles Munroe, persons are reflecting on his last moments on earth and what many say are telltale signs that the renowned author and motivational speaker was preparing to make his departure. Joan Davis-Roll has that story.
Could Dr. Myles Munroe have known that death was imminent? This question was raised following a chilling revelation during the official opening ceremony of the Global Leadership Conference here on Grand Bahama. The moment came during an address by the CEO of Dr. Myles Munroe International Ministries, South Africa's office, Chale Masada. He said Dr. Myles Munroe had just spent the entire month of October with him in South Africa and recalled this unusual moment.
This particular trip was amazing because all over the years we would be flying in all these kinds of aircrafts. And Dr. Munroe would, even when you go to very bad turbulences, he would say, "My purpose is too great for a plane to come down."
Then he reflected on a moment many now say Dr. Myles Munroe may have spoken prophetically over his own life. He said a man who for decades spoke of vision suddenly began talking about death.
When we were in Tanzania for the first time, I heard him say, and this is on record because it was taped, he was talking about that people must live their purpose and die empty. And he said that he has done his job. He have lived his purpose. He have written 60 books. He counted a lot of things. And he said, I am not afraid to die now. I have never had Dr. Monroe talk about, dying before, about him dying. I had Dr. Monroe always talk about his purpose.
The tragic demise of Dr. Miles Monroe and his wife and 7 others, he says, was a shock and has left many here in the Bahamas and abroad numbed.
I stood in disbelief last night when we heard the news, because I just couldn't imagine a Miles Monroe who is not alive. Today, as we speak, crowds, my home is full of people because they just can't believe. And also, they also believe that I was in the plane. So some of them were there to comfort my wife. So I was comforted today by his words when he said that the greatest tragedy in life is not death, but a life without a meaning.
The African delegate noted that not only has the Bahamas lost the son of the soil and a phenomenal leader, but indeed the world. Masada stated that South Africa has lost a friend whose mission was of biblical proportion.
Today we salute the Moses of Africa, the hope of the world, a global icon in leadership. He taught us that leadership is revealed by what happens in your absence, which is why I'm so excited tonight that the International Third World Leaders Association has decided that the conference will continue, because this is what I believe Dr. Monroe would have loved to see happen. He taught us that the price of leadership is to die for a cause, and Dr. Monroe died for a cause. So I would like to say in my vernacular, hamba kahle baba, bachimbile zawudi, ndlela ntle. You have run your race, you have finished your course.
Joan Davis Roll, ZNS Network News.
Now, many are still questioning what role the weather may have played in Sunday's tragic plane crash. Tonight, Sabrina Brown speaks with the senior Met officer about this issue.
The tragic plane crash, which sent shockwaves around the world, occurred during adverse weather conditions on Grand Bahama.
There was a frontal system that was over Florida and moving in this direction, and this weather was predicted from latest Friday and could be as early as Thursday if you go back and check your forecast.
Senior officer at the Met Office, Kirk James, says the system, which dumped some 2.61 inches of rain on the island, is not unusual at this time of year. However, he says conditions were poor and visibility was an issue.
Once you have moderate to heavy rain, visibility is going to be an issue. Not only visibility, ceilings going to be an issue also, cloud ceilings. So that would have produced low visibility, heavy activity. What was interesting, the wind gust was not that strong at all. No real strong wind gust. So it could have been much more severe if you had strong southerly winds ahead of this front. The winds were in the 15 knot range or less. The gusts hardly exceeded 20 knots, so nothing abnormal about that. So yes, low visibility would have impacted landing and taking off aircrafts at the airport, and driving conditions. I spotted several strong thunderstorms. They were there, and as a matter of fact, when I issued the second, which would have been I think around 7:30, weather warning, I actually spotted a water spout.
James says Sunday's bad weather should not have caught anyone off guard, as a number of weather alerts were issued well ahead of the system.
Certainly the emphasis was on it, inclement weather, adverse weather for the weekend from Friday. So the weather should not have taken the public by surprise as such. And Saturday you would have seen a greater emphasis on it. On Sunday, absolutely the emphasis is on it, although Sunday started out quite fine. So the entire day of Sunday was not a bad day, not at all. What was interesting about the weather, like I say, due to this frontal system over Florida, and now today is due to a combination of the frontal system and an upper low. So that's bringing a lot of moisture up from the Caribbean, moist, unstable air.
But the big question is whether the inclement weather could have been a factor in Sunday's fatal plane crash.
We don't know that the aviation tragedy had to do with weather, as such was weather related. But yes, the weather was bad. They're investigating it. Could be mechanical, it could be weather, so many causes could be attributed to the aviation accident, and the experts will determine that, hopefully. All right, some are never determined, incidentally.
James says we should see much drier weather by Tuesday. Sabrina Brown, ZNS Network News.
Well, a U.S. state representative talking to Florida media this week calling for a boycott of the Bahamas. As we hear in this report, Bahamians are outraged to say the least.
Boycott Bahamas! Boycott Bahamas! To stop this discrimination against Haitian children.
Those are the words that have many Bahamians upset. A broadcast on a U.S. station that says local leaders are stepping up to stop a deportation policy in the Bahamas that is forcing families of Haitian descent out of the country. Local residents are outraged by the press conference, which was taped in Little Haiti in Miami, adding that the woman in the video is ill-advised of the new immigration policies.
The new law does not target Haitians. If you would notice that all nationals who are not here legally were told that they need their passport and to have their government stamp. So to say that you're targeting Haitians is untrue.
However Haitians may feel about the Bahamas, it has been the land of opportunity for thousands and thousands over the years, and many have benefited from being here.
If you in somebody's country illegal, this is what immigration does. There's no discrimination on the Bahamas' behalf. It's just a process you have to go through.
As the woman in the video called for all cruise ships, all tourists and other industries to boycott the Bahamas, residents say the Bahamas is doing the right thing by protecting this country. After all, they say Haitians cannot live in the United States undocumented.
The U.S. has a deportation policy with Haiti as well. And so I think her call largely fall on deaf ears, because I think her remarks, would go squarely in the category of unreasonable, even vicious and uncalled for.
America has their immigration policy. They don't discriminate. They don't segregate. We have our policies. We need to just support what the policies are, and I am full support of the policy. Legalize everybody or register everybody. Everybody must come in a certain way.
One resident says it is about time the government dealt with the country's immigration problem, while one woman says the Bahamas must pray as this country comes under attack.
We cannot let external forces decide what is our national policy. We have been grateful, we have been very nice to these illegals, not only Haitians, everybody, for too long.
The Bahamas is a praying nation, and we're not afraid of no foreigners, no type of foreigners. No matter what they say or what they do, we gonna pray. We know the power of prayer.
Boycott Bahamas! Boycott!
Well, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is denouncing the comments made by the Florida state representative to boycott the Bahamas over its immigration policy. The ministry says the comments are foolish and baseless and almost bear no response. However, it is important for the record to say that the allegations made about the Bahamas and its policies as it relates to children are untrue. Stay with us, the Bahamas Tonight. The Northern Edition continues right after this.
Bringing news that matters to you. You're watching the Bahamas Tonight Northern Edition.
Welcome back. Junkanoo fever is in the air in the West Grand Bahama Local Government District. In conjunction with the 8 Mile Rock Boxing Day Committee is planning a big Junkanoo celebration for Sunset Village 8 Mile Rock. Local government representative Sandy Thompson says 8 Mile Rock will be the center for culture and fun this Boxing Day.
Excited about this event because it incorporates our Bahamian culture, which is Junkanoo, and our Bahamian music. In our initial planning, we envisioned these celebrations twofold. Firstly, as a means of economic stimulation for the community of 8 Mile Rock, and secondly, the reintroduction of Junkanoo in the AM.
Thompson says the cultural show will include the best in Junkanoo and entertainment.
We will include top groups such as swingers, Kingdom Culture, New Life Classic Dancers, and our very own Bayshore Warriors and West End Titans. We are anticipating a night of full excitement as the sounds of Bahamian music will echo through the night. We will hear the sweet rocking sounds of Gino D and, of course, our homegrown son of the soil, KB. The community of 8 Mile of Grand Bahama can expect to hear from the best DJs across the Bahamas.
Warren J. Lavarity, former MP for West End and Bimini and former minister responsible for Out Island affairs, has passed away, elected in 1967 in the first majority rule cabinet. Lavarity and 7 others would later part ways with the PLP and became one of the founding fathers of the Free National Movement. He retired from public life in 1977. The nation's leader, Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Perry Christie, in paying tribute to Lavarity, says for a great part of the 1960s, he was the dominant politician in Grand Bahama, which he represented in the House of Assembly from as early as 1960. The Prime Minister says his standing was further enhanced by his father, the late Garnet Lavarity, who was a patriarchal figure and senior public official for many years in Grand Bahama. The Prime Minister says that it is noteworthy that with Mr. Lavarity's passing, the Honorable Arthur D. Hanna is now the sole surviving member of the first majority rule cabinet. The nation's leader is extending condolences to the Lavarity family on behalf of the nation. Meantime, the leader of the Free National Movement, Dr. Hubert Minnis, also reflecting on the contributions of the late Warren J. Lavarity, noting that from an early age, Lavarity was in the forefront of the struggle for majority rule. He says it was Lavarity who called for the establishment of a system of local government from as far back as 1967. Dr. Hubert Minnis is extending sympathy to the Lavarity family on behalf of the Free National Movement. Warren J. Lavarity passed away on Sunday at the age of 82.
Good evening and welcome to sports. I'm Sabrina Brown. The Grand Lucayan Reef Golf Course was the venue for the Grand Bahama Open tournament on the weekend. Ricardo Lightbourne has the details.
The Grand Bahama Open Golf Tournament played over 2 days on the Grand Lucayan Reef Golf Course. Over 70 players taking up the challenge. James Smith placed third in the Super Senior Division. George Turnquest caught it at 145 for second place. The champion, Ozzie Moore, with the net 141. In the B flight, Ricardo Lightbourne wrapped up second place with a 147. The B flight champion, that's Aaron Bastian. He had a hot 144 score. The A flight runner-up is Linford Christie. He put in a net 140. As far as the champion in the A flight, that's Lamar Green. He caught it at 136 to boot. In the championship flight, Sam Morgan rolled in a 147 for second place. The champion, that's Paul Bowe. He had a net 145. The bronze winner, Peter McIntosh, in the 2-day 152. BGF President Craig Flowers congratulated the champions.
We are a little bit depressed because of our organizer and certainly our coordinator for this whole event over the years have been Calvin Cooper. That sort of got us in a little somber mode, but you know, the weather was great, the golf was great, the players turned up from the U.S. We had a lot of players came in from Nassau. So in general, it was very, very, very successful for us.
The Broward Ebony Golf Club and member of the Sunshine State Golf Association played, and they had a great time. Right, Herbie?
In 2005, I had 15 members, and I said it's time for us to join the Sunshine State Golf Association. Our membership grew from then to 85 members today, and we are growing. We have a scholarship, a junior golf program, and we want to extend this to the Bahamas also, so we can come over here and compete because we have some great golfers from the Bahamas.
John Laris won A closest to the pin, and the Noop had a ball. Get this, Broward Ebony Golf Group will be back in just a few days to play.
The primary school's James Goon Culmer Keith Mullings Basketball League playoff action. Sunland Boys defeated Hugh Campbell 10-8. Freeport Gospel over Bishop Michael Eldon 17-11. And Hugh Campbell girls closed out BMES 11-0. The Churchill Tanner Knowles High School softball season started with a jamboree. BMES junior boys nipped Sister Mary Patricia Russell 9-8. 8 Mile Rock senior boys held off Tabernacle 15-14. St. George's with the 15-12 win over Jack Hayward. The Grand Bahama Amateur Softball Association Slow Pitch Division Championship scores from the weekend. The Coopers Destroyers over the Immigration Enforcers 17-15 in the Co-Ed West. Immigration tied the series with Coopers taking Game 2 15-14. In the East Division, the Kellys Pace Setters defeated the Pats Uniform Reds 16-13. Pats Uniform took Game 2 9-6 to tie up the series. In the men's series, the Tennessee Lutherans topped the Huglo Braves 18-15. The Huglo Braves returned the favor in Game 2 35-20, the final score. And that's your sports tonight.